Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to our hadith class. We are doing the kitab known as Riyaadhus Saaliheen of Imam An-Nawawi rahimahullah. And we are starting tonight, inshallah, from the chapter Babun fi man sanna sunnatan hasanatan aw sayyi'ah, which, as you can see, is on page 90 according to the print of the kitab. So without any delays, let us begin. Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So this chapter is the chapter with regards to whoever introduces a good action or a bad action. So this chapter also puts last week's class in a little bit more perspective. Last week we discussed bid'ah and things of the sort and the linguistics behind usage of the term good bid'ah and things of this nature, and why Imma used it in that fashion. So this chapter here, you have a man ahdatha fi amrina hadha ma laysa minhu fahuwa raddun. The ahadith such as that. But now we are doing from the chapter of you introducing something which is new, either something good or something bad. But obviously, does not refer to what we generally understand to be bid'ah. But let's read the ahadith and you'll understand it better. So he starts, he says, قال الله تعالى والذين يقولون ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما. In Surah Furqan, Allah makes mention and Allah speaks about the believers. والذين يقولون, and those who say ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين, grant us from our wives and our children the coolness of our eyes. وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا, and make us leaders for the muttaqeen. So because of this part of the dua here, therefore it's entered into this chapter, because you are starting something by becoming a leader. So people, you lead, others follow. So you are introducing something, if you to put it in the most literal technical sense. So anyway, وقال تعالى وجعلناهم أئمة يهدون بأمرنا. In Surah Al-Anbiya, Allah says وجعلناهم, and we made them أئمة as imams, يهدون بأمرنا, that they are guided by our, in other words, Allah guides them and people follow them. But in any case, so let's read the hadith. It puts it a little bit in perspective. So the first hadith, hadith number 173, عن أبي عمرو جرير بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما. Hazrat Jarir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu, his kunya was Abu Amr. He narrates, قال كنا في صدر النهار عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Because it's a lengthy hadith, I'm going to read it piece by piece. So Hazrat Jarir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu, he said that we were fi Sadri Nahar. Sadri Nahar means in the, it was early in the morning. So obviously not early morning before sunrise, but early morning after the sun has risen and everything. So in the beginning part of the morning, we were here by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَجَاءَهُ قَوْمٌ عُرَاتٌ. Then a group of people came and they were naked. But it doesn't mean naked in that sense. He explains it. مُجْتَابِ النِّمَارِ أَوِ الْعَبَاءِ. They were these people they were almost naked, but they were wearing clothing which were either like woolen garments, now something that they pulled over their head, like, let's put it this way, as people would say, either they were wearing woolen clothes or rags, like patched, broken things that's so small it can barely cover their bodies. That's what they were wearing. متقلدي السيوف. They hung their swords around their necks. They didn't have a belt in any case to keep their sword on their side. So therefore they hung the sword around their neck. عامتهم من مضر بل كلهم من مضر. Most of them were from the tribe of Mudar. In fact, all of them were from Mudar. So فتمعر وجه رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لما رأى بهم من الفاقة. And when Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam saw them, the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam changed. Now, tama'ara generally means to change out of anger, but obviously Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was not angry at them. So you could see it has impacted greatly on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Seeing these people who were Muslim come in this state here, it's not that they were dressing in this way. It was lima ra'a fi bihim min al-faqa. They had such abject poverty that they had nothing in the world to wear besides that piece of cloth that they had. That's it. They had nothing else. So it's not like they had others and they weren't wearing it. They literally had nothing. Nothing in the world. So فدخل ثم خرج. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam entered then exited, meaning Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam went into the house and then came out. Now it's not mentioned here, but what a person also understands is that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam probably went inside and looked around. Is there any food? There was probably nothing, because that's how the house of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to be. There was, for days on end, a fire would not be lit because there was nothing, and there was probably no zakah, sadaqah that had come in, so there was nothing of that either to give for them. So فأمر بلالا فأذن. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam called Hadrat Bilal radiyallahu anhu and told him to make the adhan. وأقام فصلى. So he made the adhan, then the iqama was given, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam led the Muslims in salah. ثم خطب. Then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave a khutbah. فقال يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة إلى آخر الآية إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. In the khutbah, that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam now began addressing the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam quoted this ayah: Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, ittaqu rabbakum, fear your Lord, alladhi khalaqakum min nafsi wahida, that Allah who has created you from one soul, meaning from Hadrat Adam alayhi salam, not from evolution and other forms of kufr that people believe in, but Allah created all of mankind from one man, min nafsi wahida. Right through Inna Allah kana alaykum raqiba, the entire ayah Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam read until this point, that verily Allah is all watching over whatever you do. And then والآية الأخرى التي في آخر الحشر. Then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam recited in another ayah, this one being from Surah Al-Hashr, at the end of Surah Hashr, wherein the ayah is يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله, as the ayah continues on. So this ayah, Allah says, "O you who have iman, ittaqullah, fear Allah, waltanzur, and let every person look ma qaddamat lighadin, what you have prepared for tomorrow." In other words, prepared for after you have died and left this world. So تصدق رجل من ديناره من درهمه من ثوبه من صاع بره من صاع تمره حتى قال ولو بشق تمرة. So Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, this is the words of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It's not in other words, what he's saying is Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam recited this ayah and then said, what it means is, let a person give sadaqah from the dinars that he has, the gold coins, min dirhamihi, from his silver coins, min thawbihi, in other words, it was an exhortation for people to give sadaqah, whether you have silver coins, whether you have gold coins, min thawbihi, if you have clothing, give the clothing, min sa'i burrihi, if you have like wheat, like we would say in today's time, 1 kg wheat, because that's how people worked in a sa' and a mud, it was like containers, a bowl that people would dish with. So anyway, so if you have flour, coarse type flour, it wasn't a refined flour like we have it, but anyway, it was something people could make a meal with. Min sa'i burrihi, min sa'i tamrihi. If you have dates, because people had orchards, date plantations, so people would have dates around. It was Medina after all. Dates was the fruit and the food of the time as well. They weren't 110 apples and grapes and all other stuff, but the fruit was dates. So the most common thing was dates. So min sa'i tamrihi, if you have dates, give sadaqah of your dates. So much so, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam kept on mentioning until Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Walau bi shiqqi tamra," even if it is a piece of date, even if you don't have a whole date, give sadaqah, even if it is a piece of date. So before we move on beyond this point, the ولو بشيق تمرة, what the person understands is that this is also a tafsir of ما قدمت لغد. Apart from the fact that there was a reason behind the exhortation of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but you also understand that what you owe, the money that you have, and I touch upon this in one of those weekly audios I send out, that the only money you really have, your overseas bank account, so to speak, is the money that you spend in the path of Allah. So when you give sadaqah, that, you go and you to an ATM and you put in money, and you get the SMS ping, 150 rand has been put into your account, for example. Now you take 150 and you give it in sadaqah. Then you may not get that SMS coming out on your phone, but your book of deeds has got that transaction written down. 150 rand waits for you on the day of Qiyamah. Not that you're going to come and get money, but that money, that is what you will see that will benefit you. It is ma qaddamat lighad. You have sent it forth for you for the tomorrow. I'm planning on shifting from one town to another town, so I'm sending my goods ahead. I'm sending my furniture with a moving truck and everything. Things of the sort. So ma qaddamat lighad, what you have prepared for tomorrow. And what is more is that you also see that no matter what it is, you may not have a whole date, but you give, and this bishiqi tamra is literal. It's not, figurative. It's literal. Even if you have a piece of date and you give that in the path of Allah, then Allah accepts it and Allah will reward you for it too. So anything you have that you can give in sadaqah, do it. You will get the reward for it. Now, what happened as a result of this exhortation of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam? فجاء رجل من الأنصار بسرة كادت كفه تعجز عنها بل قد عجزت. Now, Hazrat Jarir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu, he has this way of speaking. Like he said here, بل كلهم من مضر عامتهم من مضر بل كلهم من مضر. So he repeats it again. He says, so a man from the Ansar came بسرة, with a bag, and this bag is, is where people would keep dates and stuff like this in. So he came with a bag. كادت كفه تعجز عنها. He was, it's like his hands were filled with the bag. The bag was so big, it covered his hands. He was barely able to carry it. بل قد عجزت. In fact, it was, in other words, you understand, it's not a little small pouchy that fits in the middle of your palm. Rather, it was like such a big sack. Think of it in today's world, or the olden time world at least, where you have these Hessian bags. All the Capitan rice and everything used to come in those sort of big bags like that. Probably 50 kg. But those bags. So when you carry a bag like this, it's big. Your hands are not enough to encompass the whole thing. Yeah, you're carrying it, but it hides your hand, so big it is. So that's how big bag he brought. ثم تتابع الناس حتى رأيت كومين من طعام وثياب. So this Sahabi came and he brought, and everyone, tataba and nas, one after the other, everybody went, got whatever they could, and they brought it, and they brought it. And Hadar Jarir radiallahu anhu, he said, حتى رأيت كومين من طعام وثياب, until I saw two mountains, or not mountains, but like two hills of food and clothing. That's how much everybody went, brought whatever they could, and they put it out. حتى رأيت وجه رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يتهلل كأنه مذهبة. Hadrat Jarir radiallahu anhu, he said, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum brought so much until I saw the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was shining as if it was gold. Like uh, when the sun shines on gold, it can blind you, so bright it is. So that's how the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was shining. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من سن في الإسلام سنة حسنة فله أجرها وأجر من عمل بها من بعده من غير أن ينقص من أجورهم شيء. After seeing all of this, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam made the statement to say, من سن في الإسلام سنة حسنة. Whoever creates or brings about in Islam a good action, فله أجرها, then you will have the reward of it. وأجر من عمل بها من بعده, and the reward of those who follow him after, who follow after him, even if he's long dead and buried and everything, but people are still practicing upon me, then he will receive that reward continuously. من غير أن ينقص من أجورهم شيء, without these people's reward decreasing in the least. So you followed a person who did good and you do it as well, you will get your full reward, and he will get that same amount of reward without your reward decreasing in the least. وَمَنْ سَنَّ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ سُنَّةً سَيِّئَةً, and whoever introduces in Islam a bad action, كَانَ عَلَيْهِ وِزْرُهَا, then he will have the son thereof. وَوِزْرُ مَنْ عَمِلَ بِهَا مِنْ بَعْدِهِ, as well as the son of those who follow him in it afterwards. مِنْ غَيْرِ أَنْ يَنْقُصَ مِنْ أَوْزَارِهِمْ شَيْءٌ, without he will have the same son as them, without their son decreasing in the least. Muslim, Imam Muslim rahimahullah reports this hadith. So you look at the words sunnatan hasana, sunnatan sayyi'ah. You have Salafis and they try to argue against the Imam's usage of the linguistic term bid'ah. So they come and say, no, it's a sunnah. But that doesn't hold up, because there's no such a thing as a sunnatan sayyi'ah, a bad sunnah. There's no such thing as a sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam which can ever be bad. So it's not sunnah in the context of the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Rather, it refers to a practice. Whoever introduces a practice. Now, what you understand here, if you put it this way, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam exhorting the people, everyone following Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Number one. Number two, a man went and brought a bag of dates, and everybody is saying, hey, he's bringing stuff, let's go and do it too. Not for the sake of we don't want to be left out, or for name and fame, not at all. But it was, it's sometimes people need a little bit of a nudge. So one sahabi getting up and bringing something, and everybody is like, oh, then everybody, like, they get the message now, and they run, grab whatever they can, and they give sadaqah. So he started with sadaqah, and they all gave sadaqah because of him having given sadaqah, which triggered it in their minds, and thus he gets the reward from all of them as well. And this is how it works from a Shari'i perspective. So, for example, let's say you start a practice of visiting the people in the old age home. For example, you start this practice. Now, visiting old people over there, especially Muslims, unfortunately, who have families that have discarded them, to use it in that way, because that's what the reality. They've discarded them, thrown them in an old age home because they don't want to look after them at home. So they throw them over there. Now they sit there all alone in a little small where you actually have to see what those old age homes look like. It's like a little shack for all intents and purposes, and they're old and everything, and nobody comes then. They don't have people to talk to. Yeah, sure, they can speak now and then to the other people who's also around there and old, but not everybody is comfortable with every random person out there. They look for their family now, or at least some let's put it this way, decent person. You come, you visit them, you speak to them, you ask how they are, or you bring them some food and things of the sort, because their pension money does not last an entire month. So when it comes to time, 20 days of the month is gone. Whatever little bit they got as their sasa, it's already been used up. How are they going to survive till the end of the month? So you say, you know what, I'm going to take some groceries and stuff and take it to the Muslims in the old age home. And then other people, what are you doing? Like, no, the situation over there, I went there and I saw this is how it was. So, that's why I'm taking this. And they're like, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Let me see what I can do. And then he speaks with other people. Then everyone who practice upon that to go and visit the old age home, to go see how they're doing, whether the old age home, whether it be a what you call it now, an orphanage, things of the sort. I'm just giving an example. There are millions more, but this is what it means. It don't mean I'm going to start a practice of making some new salah over here. That's a bid'ah, that's evil, that's finari jahannam. But we're talking here a good deed which you institute and people then follow you. Then in that case, you get the reward of everybody who does it as well. And on the flip side of the coin, whoever brings about an evil thing, and this can take place in different ways. Likewise, like there's a million ways of good, there's a million ways of evil as well. then you happen to be the unfortunate one. You start a trend of pouting, duck face, and you take selfies and you post it up online. Think about it. In the days of old, there was no such a thing as people pouting for a picture. It never existed. And then somehow someone pouted and took a picture, and that became a norm for a period of time. Okay, it's the trend kind of died down in recent times, but nonetheless, for a long time that was there. So people who now pouted and took their pictures, the son of it all traces back to the original person. For example, that's what it is. You bring about something, and obviously this would apply wherever dini matters are concerned. So if you create some new bid'ah, and bid'ah here in deen, in the Shari'i definition rather than the linguistic one. So you bring about some bid'ah and people follow you, then for every single person who practices upon that, you will get the sin of it as well as them. That's how the wizard part, the sun part, has a lot more to it than the good part. The good part, you cannot introduce new things into deen itself. But the sun, it's when you bring something in, whether you're calling it deen or not, whether you start a practice of, let's say, insulting people, for example. You're not claiming it to be deen, but you start the practice. Then everybody start following you with it as well. Then you share in the sun. That's how it works. But anyhow, it shows that a person has to be very careful about what you say. Imam Ash-Shatibi, rahimahullah, I think he, at least, I may be mistaken, when he made a statement, he said words to the effect that, glad tidings to the one who dies and his sins die with him, and woe to the one who dies and for years he is questioned in his qabr because of a thing that he created of evil. And every single time someone is practicing upon it, it adds to his burden, and he has to answer for every single one of those people who practices upon that sin because of him having been the originator of it. So you have, let's put it in today's context. I also gave a short audio on the same topic as well. What are you leaving behind? You have, for example, people, youngsters, parents who don't take care, who don't care, at least I should say. So they have their daughters having TikTok, and there you are, some new dance, and you're doing it on TikTok. So all the other children and adults and people now follow you in that. You may die. You will be punished for every single person who does that dance because of you, for example. Now you have, but I didn't tell people to do it. I just did it. But that's how social media works, and how it can work for you or against you. But nonetheless, you get the picture. Let's move on before the time runs out. Anyway, it's a very serious case. You can bring about something which is good, which will benefit you forever. You can have died, like I say, 100 years have gone by, and every single day you get that reward as people continue to practice upon it. And you can have done something bad, and 100 years can have passed by, and you will be punished every day because of the evil that you had left behind. May Allah protect and safeguard us, and let us leave behind deeds which are good and not deeds which are evil. Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah now goes on to explain the words used in the hadith. قوله مجتاب النمار هو بالجيم مجتاب النمار والنمار جمع نامرات وهي كساء من صوف مخطط. So he says, okay, we know that the jim, it is not muhtabi, mujtabi. Muhtabi would be like from the word ihtiba, but that's like a form of setting. So anyway, he said it's not that, it's mujtabi. It means, and nimar is a plural of the word namira, and namira is a cloth which is made out of wool, and it is mukhattat, it's got lines on it, so like a lined woolen garment. Or at least I should not say lined. Today, people have lining in their clothing. It's not referring to that lining. It's referring to a pattern, something which has, let's call it striped rather than lined. It gives a better meaning. So a striped woolen garment. ومعنى مجتابيها أي لابسيها قد خرقوها في رؤوسهم. They were wearing these clothes, these woolen garments. قد خرقوها في رؤوسهم. It's like they, like, let's put it this way, they pulled a woolen thing to push their head through and avoid like that because it's all they had. والجوب القطع. ومنه قوله تعالى وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد أي نحتوه وقطعوه. So Job here was referring to the, where did we have it? Okay, I can't even see right now. But anyway, saying Job means to cut, and that is like you find in the ayah, and Thamud, who cut they carved into the rocks in the valley, the mountains over there. They would carve the mountain itself and make their houses like that. That was Thamud. They excavated it, carved it out, cut it out, and made it into a place. So وقوله تمعر هو بالعين المهملة. تمعر, not تمغر. An عين مهملة means an عين without a dot, meaning not a غين. So the word تمعر أي تغير, that the face of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam had changed. I explained that previously. وقوله رأيت كومين. I saw two كومين. What is كومين? بفتح الكاف وضمها. كومين or كومين أي صبرتين, like two little hills. وقوله كأنه مذهبة وبالذال المعجمة. الذال المعجمة means a dhal with a dot and not a dal, not مذهبة. But anyway, والمراد به الصفاء والاستنارة. What it means is that as if the face of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was like gold, but he means here meaning clear and bright shining. So the face of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam shone out of happiness. Let's read the last final hadith before the time runs out. وعن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ليس من نفس تقتل ظلما إلا كان على ابن آدم الأول كفل من دمها لأنه كان أول من سن القتل. متفق عليه. Hazrat Abdullah ibn Mas'ud رضي الله عنه, he said that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, ليس من نفس تقتل ظلما. There is not a single person on earth who is killed wrongly. إلا كان على ابن آدم الأول كفل. على ابن آدم الأول. Except that the first son of Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, Qabil, Cain as is known in English from a biblical perspective, Cain and Abel, Habil and Qabil. Qabil being the one who had killed Habil, Abel. So Kiflun, Kifl means like the son of it. So every single person in the world who is killed wrongly, the son of their killing is obviously upon the killer, and Qabil shares in the son of it. Kiflu min damiha. He shares in the blood, the shedding of that blood unlawfully. Why? لأنه كان أول من سن القتل. Because he was the very first person to institute this act of killing a person unjustly. He killed his brother Habil, and therefore every single murder that takes place in the entire world, regardless of what way it is, whether it be by dropping bombs, whether it be by hijacking and whatever, Qabil shares in every one of them. So you may think every day thousands of people are murdered in the world. Thousands of murders are added to the scale of Qabil each and every single day. That's how it is. So you can just imagine if you were the one to create something, like you can see, it is, he did something. He didn't say follow me in it. He just did something, but he was the first to do it. So if you are the first to hold hands with LGBT, for example, if you are the first to host LGBT, if you are the first to become part of the Abrahamic religion, Abrahamic faith type things, if you are those who take part in those sort of stuff, you, Allah forbid, you are the one who actually initiated it, then you will answer for that till the day that practice dies out. Hopefully you must, unfortunately you're dead and you can't do anything, but you must wish that you don't have love in your, or at least not love in your company, you are alive anyway, You must wish that people forget about it and stop doing it, so that your book of sin can come to an end, and not that you started the LGBT business over here, and therefore other Muslims started doing it. They also standing up for LGBT. They also standing up to say hijab is your choice. Burn the scarf and stuff like this. Here, you will bear the sin of every single last one of those people, and everybody who don't wear the hijab thereafter, you will share in the crime of the. That's how it is. It's not something which is small, yet it is something that people take to be far too small. متفق عليه. The hadith is reported both by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim rahimahumullah. And that's the end of this chapter, and it is the end of tonight's class. We will stop on this point here until next time we end and we say وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد. سبحان الله وبحمده، سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك، نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت، نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.